In the end, no matter how much practicality or realism you go with, you will have to take that leap of faith. For me, the plus one in UPSC was I get a much more diverse background and ground to work with. My father is somebody who says कि you don't take too much time for a decision. You take a decision and then you make it right. मैं brainstorm करती थी कि why is forgiveness attribute of the strong. These were my points.
Tell me some
ये
of the
चीजें सब
worst
लोग
advices
बोलते हैं.
you got. Okay, the worst advices you got.
Worst advices.
Hi everyone. This is Rohit, and we are with another episode of Raw and Real. And I have with me Neha, who scored rank 51. And I just spent last 30 minutes to try to understand her preparation, her life till UPSC, so as to give you a very quick introduction. But I am at loss to say anything else but this, that she cleared this in her first attempt, and all her life it's been a dream run, dreams within dreams, uh, but with a lot of mature headspace, which I got to know when I talked about why she picked up medicine as a career, the dreams she had in class 10th, why she rejected engineering, and how did she make these decisions, which when I reflect back in my day and age and my time, I think we were much more guided by what society says than what you guys you did in your lifetime. The only thing, however, which came close to being her Achilles heel is that she barely cleared through the CSAT. The CSAT cutoff this year was 66. She got 66.68. The paper one cutoff was 75, and I think you got somewhere around 80.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
have known rankers who kind of, after giving prelims, they got back and they took their scores and they've plunged into depths of, mild depression. Ki, ab to ye hoga hi nahi, but I think you did not. And, your scores had a fair bandwidth. But just think, it's like you were the chosen one here. You
True,
just
true,
the
true.
CSAT paper by 0.68 and then you went on to get the 51 rank. She got amazing 195 in her interview, Anthropy 297. So we'll start the raw and real conversation. I know so much now, but I'll try to, be the conductor of this orchestra, if I
Sure,
may.
sure, sure.
So Neha,
Yes.
tell me this. I'll just revisit some of the conversation, right? In class 12th, you realize that engineering is something, agar coding hi seekhne hai, to I can learn it all by myself by looking at the MIT course fair. And you said, okay, medicine is still a worthy profession, even if I have to choose anything otherwise.
True, true.
How do you, मतलब लोग नहीं सोच पाते हैं, ठीक है? In usually, how do you usually make such practical decisions like this, that, and that's how you go, or do you generally go for something which you find your calling कि नहीं ये करना ही है whatever happens वगैरह वगैरह? And how do you then make a transition to giving UPSC after your MBBS? Give us a sense of this.
I would say so that it's a mix of both. To me, realism and romanticism are, something which go together because otherwise, if you are very pragmatic, I don't think there is anything that humans will ever dream for. So I first go for a, pro and con list or probably a more practical approach of what suits me better. Yeah, what is the practically better option? But in the end, no matter how much practicality or realism you go with, you will have to take that leap of faith. It's not something that you can predict. I had never predicted that I'll probably clear in my first attempt, but it was that leap of faith that I took from MBBS to get into UPSC because I had that, I had that vision कि मुझे शायद ये करना चाहिए, better suits my abilities and my interests, as well as the fact कि चलो ठीक है, if it is this intuition that is telling me to get into the field, so I thought that I should get into.
Okay, so on that logic, I think you would be sure that ya to I will take IAS or IPS or IFS. If I get any other rank, then it's not worthy. Did you think like that for the civil services, and then I would go back to my medicine? Yeah, you were like, medicine I've left behind and it's done and dusted. I will think of something in either administration or some other kind of public service.
No, so I genuinely was I think I am somebody who loves everything a lot. So medicine is something I still love, and if I were to go back, I would have become a surgeon. So I definitely would say that for me, the top choices were administrative services, police services, and the revenue services. These were the three things I think I would probably have settled with, or I would, have gone with instead of that. I am genuinely not sure what I would have decided if I would have gotten the other services. Probably when the time would have come, so I would have done a pro con or a realistic approach. But again, because my graduation is as such, and I do derive a lot of a sense of satisfaction and motivation from my field itself. The field I've graduated, seen a lot of great doctors do great work in my hospital. So I pretty much probably would have gone back to doing what I was doing if not this.
Okay, cool. We'll just segue slightly back. Okay, in the pre-chat, in the pre-podcast chat, you talked about that you have a different learning system for yourself. Because of which you were at cross with your teachers for a while, but you stuck with it and
Yeah.
you stayed put. And this was, I'm assuming, from the time of your schooling days.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
And these are some of the things we look out around when we speak with rankers. Key, what were some of the very unique things which you did, which I'm assuming a lot of other people would also be scrambling with, but they either might not have the confidence to carry on, or they might slightly sometimes get overwhelmed and they will, then pick up whatever is the traditional wisdom around. Okay, so just take some time and as much as you can explain, tell us about some of the learning systems which you really polished in and through your, learning life, your student life.
To be very honest, I think in a Indian education system like ours, the kind of system, there was a lot of, because I was also from state board, there is a lot of roting and memorization and everything, rote learning and everything. So people wanted to build systems around that. So
Acha.
I was a little against in doing it only for the sake of doing it. I said that if I want to write something in my language, I would do that. If not exactly, in the paragraph manner. And I think that has fared very well for UPSC as well. That I have never, even in my MBBS career, I've never stuck to writing long paragraphs. Rather, I have probably, put it in a diagrammatic representation wherever I could. If there is something regarding it. So this was one of the things regarding, how I used to study. Secondly, I am more of somebody who likes to read more from the same book rather than do a lot of note making. I would rather just probably have stick notes over the same place if I want to add something or if there is a particular point. So I don't fare well with a lot of that I'm reading a book and then I'm noting down small pointers. Probably in my mains I have done that, and in a few instances in my overall academic career I might have done that. But I rather like to read through books again and again. I think that gives you a more and more, as in when you read to your go to your third and fourth reading, you will have a fair bit of idea that this is the keyword. So when you are onto the fourth reading, I don't think you have to make a note of it. You just read that word and you move forward. So I don't believe in just noting out that word onto one page and then going through that page. So also I am more comfortable with having a lot of context कि मैं पढ़ क्या रही हूँ. नोट्स में हम क्या कर लेते हैं कि it's not a lot of context that you write. So I rather prefer having my word and my keyword there and there itself. And if in any case I want a context of whatever I'm reading is already there in the book. So that is something I prefer. Because there is a lot of note making thing, in UPSC that a lot
Yes.
of students
So
have been
no
asking.
micro note for you then.
Not for prelims as long as I'm concerned. For mains, you have to, because before your exam, you will have to revise certain keywords, phrases, data points. That is something, because that is something you cannot remember for a very long while. So वो आपको लिखना पड़ेगा, because exam is 3 hours. आपको उसके बाद आधा घंटा 1 घंटा जो बीच में मिलता है या उसके पहले जो फर्स्ट पेपर के पहले होता है. So that is what I have made good enough notes for mains, because I knew that this is a very lengthy exam. If probably it was one paper, I would not have made it, but because there were so many papers and there was so much to write, so I had to make a lot of notes. But still, I managed to keep them at the minimum, whatever I can, revise. Yeah.
And you mentioned that, when you were preparing for medical, you used to scribble inorganic chemistry stuff. So, kya, do you used to
Yeah.
messy scribble throughout a
So
while?
Yeah, so I usually have supposedly I've read a topic, right? And I am probably just trying to actively recall what I've read or what do I know of that topic. So I'll just take a notebook in front of me and I'll scribble onto ki acha, I'll just close my eyes or probably, just write it very roughly ki acha, this word, this word, this word, this word. It's probably not legible very much to everybody, but I've done this in a lot of notebooks. If there is chemistry, so I would just draw the chemical formula onto the paper ki this is how a compound looks like or whatever I'm re-revising in my mind. If it is mathematics, I would just write down rough numbers ki acha. I would probably not solve everything step by step by step by step, but just get a rough idea ki acha ye likhenge fir ye likhenge fir ye likhenge aise karke. So that was something I've done. I scribble a lot because when I go through my active recall kind of a thing, so I like to do that more, and I think that way you remember also more ki you've read it and now you're recalling without passively just reading. That is, I think, a lot more effective to remember a lot of things, or see how your memory is in terms of that.
Okay, and let me still for a while stay at the undergrad before the undergrad preparation. So physics, we used to do a lot of problems back then. I mean, when I was preparing for
Yeah,
JEE, and we used to
yeah,
stay put with the problems for long because obviously Erudov was very difficult than what
very
normal.
different. True,
So
true, true.
what used to be your modus operandi? Would you like stay put with the problem for long? Would you comfortable with the problem ki wo abstract fuzzy si dimag mein, or would you go back and the solutions? या फिर some people do reverse engineering even while they're studying for the first time. What was your approach like?
So for physics, I think I used to struggle a lot. My very stronger points were chemistry and biology. Physics was actually a sore point for me as well. But what my used to be like, when you have a question paper or you are solving something, I would go through the questions, whatever at that point in time. But as you said, ki after I would not be stuck on that one topic. I would solve. I have this thing ki if you do not know or if you're not knowing, just go through it once. Try to solve it. If not, you just leave it and then come back and see कि क्या issue है इसमें, why were you not able to solve, probably either see a solution or ask your teacher or whatever. So at least you are able to judge where you are in the baseline, right? I think understanding कि आप कहाँ हो, क्यों नहीं हुआ ये करके. So I usually used to do that, go back to solution, see what I can do more about it. Probably I did not know a formula, or this is a problem that I've never seen before. So what more should I do? Should I probably solve more tests that way? So that was more or less of my strategy.
Okay, so okay, I'm just hopping in between because whatever
Yeah, sure, sure.
about your learning system, you just
Yeah.
recently gave a talk back at your college to your juniors. Uh,
Yes.
among other things, you talked about the dilemma of कि यार एक तो ये सपना था ही डॉक्टर बनने का, फिर एक और सपना है कलेक्टर बनने का. तो how do you make sense of dreams beyond dreams? And also, did you speak to them about the strengths that doctors come up with in the UPSC preparation, like some of the strengths because of the way you've been learning from 11, 12th and your MBBS career? There would be some plus points and some minus points which you have when you bring in. What are some of those things that a doctor has an advantage over the normal aspirant?
So speaking of the dilemma that I have encountered is because most of the people that come into service come with a probably they want to have a more service oriented, or they want a little more people exposure. These are all the things that already are present in the medical field. So that is not something that usually people in the medical field are there looking for. So for me, the plus one in UPSC was I get a much more diverse background and ground to work with. Medicine is a very niche field. When you become a cardiologist or you are a neurosurgeon for the rest of your 30 years, you are going to be dealing with that. And it's an expertise field. Like you have to be an expert when you've probably done, thousands and thousands of the same surgery. That's when, your value or your expertise matters. And if somebody is like that, I think I give the same advice that if you're somebody who likes to be this kind of a person who can get into a niche field, become an expert and go there, it's good. But for me personally, I think I never realized, even my post 10th standard, ki I was much of a diverse person, probably who's interested in history and science at the same time. So that pushed me towards the exam, because to get anywhere, you have to clear the exam. If you are not motivated enough, or would I say interested enough to know the syllabus and go through the syllabus? It's not an easy task to study as well for 8 to 10 hours if you're not interested. I think if you don't find history interesting. So that was my point. The advantage of being a medical student, I think in those 5.5 of years that you study, I think there is a lot of studying. So we are accustomed to studying for 8 to 10 hours or probably 12 hours, on a constant basis during, 1 month before our exam as well. So I think that is one thing, that is one advantage. Another advantage, I think, by the time you've reached to your final year, I think the amount of resilience and perseverance to get through medical college is a lot, because there are a lot of people around you who probably read a lot more and everything. So that goes into that you have become a person who knows how to go through references. आपको पता है कि आपको value addition. Like even in medicine, there is one book which is a common book that you read, but after that, when you want to read more. So you go to reference books, you see ki, acha, this topic is a lot better in this one, and you can, go through that. That is a similar process that you go through in your UPSC. So that is an advantage. And I do believe that my sense of empathy probably, and the want or meaning to connect to people could be a lot more as compared to somebody else who's never actually seen a patient in the kind of situation wherein you feel helpless or something like that. Because I have had there was one incident which I think mentioned somewhere else as well. Ki I have seen people come up to me in the college randomly when I was a student. Ki ma'am, 10 रुपए नहीं है हमारे पास to buy that OPD paper. Can you just please buy me that OPD paper? So I think when you meet such kind of people, it humbles you down. It shows you that you are actually in a situation of privilege, that you can do a lot more than what you have been doing. I have stopped complaining about the little inconveniences that you have. I think people in India, when you see a population like this, so there is so much more to do, and there is so much more that their lives can be better. You already have a lot of food on your table, good clothes to wear, and I started having that kind of gratitude towards every day that I get to wake up and do something that is very good for me, for my career, for my parents, for my family, for my country. So I think these are the things probably not a lot of other professions might provide. I think medicine gives you a very good insight of, on ground situation of how Indian people are suffering through and everything. So that disadvantage, we have, general studies has a approach of reading everything generally. We are more focused on going into depths. So if there is a topic a doctor is supposed to understand when you are preparing for NEET, which I did for a while, so आपको depth में जाना पड़ेगा, which is not the real approach for general studies. You can have a generalized idea. You don't have to do a PhD or something like that. But medicine में, so it takes a while for medical people to go there and do that. This इतना ही पढ़ना है, इतना depths में नहीं जाना है करके. So that could be a little bit challenging.
And CSAT?
CSAT, luckily enough, I think because I liked maths, most of the doctors are, averse to maths. There was a question also one, I think I had done a topper stock at Vision, तो उन्होंने पूछा मैम मैं डॉक्टर हूँ, and CSAT was a challenge. So I said, see, I did not particularly dislike CSAT. It was definitely, I think 2023 paper, the moment I saw it, I was like, I don't know how, how I'm going to get through. But I just focused in the paper, ki, let's just do what I know. If I don't know something, because I knew that the CSAT is a qualifying paper, right? So I tried to the best of my abilities कि यार जो आता है ना उस पर फोकस करिए. आपको मैथ्स के बहुत क्वेश्चंस ऐसे मिल जाएंगे जो शायद आप नहीं कर पाओगे in the paper, and that's not the goal to go any which ways for. So for me, that was the approach to CSAT that way.
Oh, you remind me. I was talking to Chandra Prabha, and she told me that the first 10 minutes when she saw the paper one, even the GS one was a shocker, right?
Yeah, everything.
Do you remember from your first 10 minutes when you looked up the paper? Do you remember what you felt? How did you go through that?
Yeah. I think so. What I would tell you a fun thing. So I had this Dr. Shivan Chaudhary on YouTube had shown this flipping method which I liked a lot. That when you start with a paper, try to flip through so that it takes off your anxiety a bit. You see a few words that you've probably read or something. तो आपका वो जो थोड़ा मन में डर होता है, just go through your questions once. Just flip the papers like that. So I had decided that I'll do this in the final paper as well. I opened the paper and I flipped through, and I saw on the first page the only two options, and I was like, "Chalo, theek hai, maybe they want to scare us off, and they've put such things on the first paper." And then I turn, and I was, to my surprise, everything was like that, and I was in shock. I was just going through. By the time I got to the last paper, I was like, I have no clue. And we all looked up in the exam room. I looked up. Every single person was actually looking at each other. Ki, what is this? And I think nobody had a clue. I don't think any of the aspirants who were attending, attempting that year had any clue. So we were all looking at each other. Ki, yaar, ab kya karenge hum? But also the fact that I think my mindset was always also this, that now it becomes more clear that everyone is in the same boat, so it makes the paper difficult for everybody, not just me. So
Hmm.
that is the kind of clarity I had ki, you know what, this is not just a difficult paper for me, but also for everyone else. So what all I can do right now is give my best to the best of my ability, what I know. It's okay to not know now, and I tell a lot of people this as well. Don't carry baggage. अगर आपको पहले के 10 क्वेश्चन नहीं आ रहे हैं, don't start judging yourself in the examination hall that you're so damn stupid that you don't know these 15 questions. It's okay, maybe you know the 16, maybe you don't. So take every question anew, try to analyze as much as possible, because in the examination hall, if you take that pressure onto your mind ki, I am unable to do it, it's okay. I think even the numbers of attempts that I did, because the paper was difficult, was less, because I knew कि यार इसमें से four, any of the four options, if I'm not at all sure, how can I go with it and do negative marking? So it was pretty shocking, but I think with a little bit of calmness, it's a lot better that way. If you get freaked out, it might affect your paper and your analyzing skills probably.
Correct. And at this moment, I should tell all the gentle listeners that you were one of the person who used to give MCQs exams like crazy from your class 4 till class 9. So I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
definitely helps a lot, right? I'm sure you
Yes,
would have
yes,
been in
yes,
those simulations where an easy paper came, a tough paper came, or a bouncer came.
yes.
So most of the time, when we talk to rankers or when we listen to the rankers, if we don't get the context of where they're coming from, it
True,
sounds
true,
like
true,
they're telling an obvious thing that just calm, just
true,
chill,
true, true.
then take a deep breath and then move on. And then once you are in that position, वो होता ही नहीं है. So
नहीं,
there's
नहीं,
a, there's
true,
a,
true.
there's
I
a famous
agree.
book, which I don't know what books you got from in the office when you visited us. What were the titles that were given to you?
I think India After Gandhi was one of the books, and the hard things about hard things.
Okay, so one of
Yeah,
the if you've read the hard things about hard things, and we give that book to almost all the people who
yeah,
work with us and most of the rankers who come, is that when actually hard things happen, the hard things about hard things is that none of these advisories they come to your rescue. It's like your
yeah,
या तो तुम्हारी muscle memory होगी which is put into action, or you need to have a mentor who exactly knows कि boss उस time पे क्या बोलना होता है to get something done. Which makes me come to an important part. So you have had your learning systems figured out. You were a throughout topper. You were a studious student, and you thought through things properly before taking a decision. And like you said, you hedged between romanticism and reality in that manner.
yeah.
Two things now. What were some of the earliest impressions on your head? I know that you told me about your dad asking you, "Beta collector banne ka hai," and so in the counselor session you mentioned, "Mujhe collector ban." But what were some of the interesting impressions from people, books, or anecdotes which you've heard, which kind of shaped you to who you are? And
Uh,
secondly, there must have been times when you would have felt unsure about yourself, or I don't know if you doubted your moves, or the general wisdom wouldn't have come to a rescue. So you would have figured
True,
out
true.
your own stuff just the way you figured out your own learning systems. So what were some of those systems like? The two questions, right? Early
Yeah,
impressions and then your own system.
sure, sure. So, regarding the early impression, I'll give you a start about how I actually got to the idea. So in 2020, there was COVID and everything, and I had a bit of free time. I was in my final year back then. And a lot of stories were coming up, and there was a lot of things in the newspaper, etc. And actually my brother was thinking of preparing for the civils, and tabhi usne kaha ki yaar, I genuinely feel that you are somebody, I think, who's very well suited for this. So I said, yaar, you know what, let me focus on my final, because I really want to become a doctor first, because I can't fail my finals. but he put that seed into my mind. So uske baad se I started seeing and everything ki kya hota hai exam, probably seeing the topper videos or something like that. So one of the things that's very struck in my mind was Dr. Rajendra Bharud sir. He is actually a KM, my college alumnus. He's quite a senior alumnus from my college. So he did very good work in the second wave of COVID in Nandurbar. So he had anticipated the oxygenation, which would be very less, or like there would be need of oxygen in the second wave, which a lot of parts of India were suffering in the second wave. So he did, his district did far well because he had well planned it. So this was one of the things that I thought ki, because probably he had spoken with a lot of colleagues या जो भी है आपके understanding, medical understanding से उनको वो insight था, and he could help out a lot more people. And that also gives you insight that if a doctor does not have oxygen, he cannot save the patient. So
I think the same guy who wrote a Marathi book about who wrote a book in Marathi.
yes,
He's the
yes,
same
yes,
guy. There's another one of your fellow batchmates, Sri Krishna, who also got an IAS rank. He also got inspired by the same person. I mean, long back he
uh,
wrote. I think he's a senior IAS officer. Must be a senior IAS officer.
very,
Very
very,
senior,
very,
right?
sir. Yeah,
Very
yeah, very senior.
so he wrote a book in Marathi why I became, and very recently the same COVID example he gave me. He's also a doctor. Krishna is also a
Yeah.
doctor. And he's
Oh,
like
अच्छा, अच्छा, अच्छा. हाँ, हाँ.
okay,
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So that also struck to me कि being a good doctor is not going to be sufficient enough unless and until you have the right resources. If the doctor does not have the right resources, you cannot really treat a patient no matter how smart you are. So I understood the constraints of being a doctor in a government setup. Definitely private, I would not say, but when you're working for a government hospital, and there are a lot of things that are not in your hand. So what is that I could do? So this was my starting point. Then I've watched a lot of people. I think my inspiration has come from a lot of people. Dr. Roman Saini, I think he is somebody I'm also inspired by because his journey is such a diversified and a inspirational one. Gaurav Agarwal sir hain. He is somebody whose journey through UPSC has inspired me over a lot. Vikram Grewal sir hai. I think he's very fun and interesting person, at least, as much as I've seen of his videos and everything. And funnily enough, I am also AIR 51. He was also AIR 51 back then. So, very happy about that. And उसके बाद से I think then उसके बाद से काफी सारी stories I don't think कि मैंने बिल्कुल ऐसे pinpoint कर पाऊंगी, but these are the people
But
as toppers that I was.
did you ever read back about bureaucrats from the past who inspired you? I mean, people in my time used to be TN session. I mean, uh, I remember reading that, when he became some head of DTC, Delhi Transport Corporation, he actually rode the DTC buses to understand what exactly does it mean to be a bus driver and this and that circuit. And he took everything grounds up. And before, I mean, he got famous for the election commission thing, but even before, that guy had the same streak across all the divisions he took a part of. There are people not just in UPSC or civil services. There are people in India around in 80s. There were scientists who then left their core scientific field and they said, "Here, India, mein boss, you need a lot of stuff in the ground reality." So there is a person called the Toy Man of India. I'm forgetting the name, but Arvind Agarwal,
Yeah,
ऐसी कुछ नाम है.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was an ISC graduate, and then he left everything and he started making toys with those raw material like bicycle tires and stuff, and exploring physics and all those छोटे-मोटे scientific phenomena. There's another person who started a barefoot university somewhere in Telonia, Rajasthan, I believe. And he said that whoever wants to come, and I think he was an IFS, I think. And his wife is that Narmada Bachao Andolan lady, Medha Patkar, yeah, getting the name.
Yeah, acha, acha. To be very honest, I don't think I remember. I might have, but I don't particularly remember. But also back then, when I started preparing, during the preparation, yes, I think when you read ethics, you come across a lot of examples, and then I have Googled about every, key TN station kaun hai and every that has happened, but that happened more during the preparation, less
Not before.
during just
Exhaustion.
before I started. So when I started, it wasn't that that way. But when I started my preparation, so preparation ke through, I got to know a lot more that. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Now the second part. So I got to know about your objective learning systems, which made for the first attempt clearance, and also did you did well in academic cycle as well. But what were some of the things which you faced, which only you could have figured out among yourself? Headspace issues, yeah, problem with momentum, motivation, etc., self doubts, which what you had at your level. Just go and leave nothing out from the context, and just the floor is all yours now.
I think my when you see out from an outer perspective, as you say it feels like a dream run because I did my MBBS post 1 year. I in my first attempt I cracked with a very great rank. It's something very it seems like uh, I don't know, with such a flow, I think. But during my college years, I have struggled a lot with personal growth. I think when you come as a teenager from a tier two city to a tier one city, and you've never experienced the culture, and आप घर से दूर हैं, parents नहीं हैं साथ में, so it was a lot of growth in that period as well, which I think was very challenging for me. So, first year college, to adjust to new environment. Plus, at the same time, there were a lot of negative comments, and I used to get affected by that a lot when I was 18, 19. But by then I understood, yeah, I mean, this is not worth getting into. And लोग कुछ तो कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना. And I think that is such a beautiful line to stick to. So post that, I have focused more on what I want to do in life and what I think of myself. So I always say self introspection is such a important part of your life, I think, because दूसरे क्या सोचते हैं, they have an outer aspect of who you are, but what you want to do and what you think you should improve on. I think I have a lot of there are so many things I really want to do and improve on myself. So that is what my focus has been. So that was a very big challenge that I faced before getting into UPSC. After getting into UPSC, the first thing that you talked about, self doubt, yes, because my all my peers are getting into post graduation, and by the time I was actually writing my mains and everything, they were in their second year, and second year residency is a little bit chill, so they are probably going out. So I always felt like if I don't clear, I have missed out on so much, and then I'm going to have to start from that zero. So I cannot even begin to tell कि at least 100 बार तो सोचा होगा, या probably 200 बार, 100 भी मैं कम बोल रही हूँ, 200 बार तो मैंने कम से कम सोचा होगा इन सब के बारे में, and it has eaten up a bit of my time. But I will also tell what I used to do. So I always used to come back to the start. Why did I start this? Right. So when you're starting to self doubt, is this even the right thing? My batchmates are doing something so great, and they have moved on with their life. They are doing post graduation. उनका 3 साल में हो जाएगा. अब post 3 years मेरे हाथ में तो कुछ नहीं बचेगा. So I had started my preparation for two things. One, I think the amount of things that you read in UPSC, I think to have read that, you will become a different person. The journey changes you. No matter how much, whether a result, there's a line I have made it myself, the result does not change you, the journey does. So even if the results would have been different, in that manner, like I was not the same, I was the same person on 15th of April as I was on the 17th of April, right? But I was not the same person 2 years back. So the journey, the things that I've read, and the the perseverance, the amount of consistency and the amount of hard work that I've put into has changed me for a good thing. And I have done well in under pressure. I have gone through that process. So that process definitely changes you. I will suggest here you should have this experience. It is going to change you. So my starting point was, yaar, ye karna hai. This will make you into a different person. Even if I don't end up as an IAS officer or somewhere that I wanted to be, I would definitely be a different person. So yeah, that is definitely there.
Okay, that's also kind of a very. I'll tell you the difficult parts which I've heard from people. So
Yeah.
I'll start from an aspirant I recently met in the Delhi office, and he had come to enroll in our mentorship program because he had joined 2-3 classroom programs, and he's like, "Itna, I mean, 6 months हो गए, classes चल रही just the way they happen in college, and it's like it's a waste." He like sat down one fine day to assess himself, and it was a waste. And he also came from a tier 2-3 town from Rajasthan, and उसने बोला, भैया मैंने पिछले 6-8 महीने तो ना थोड़ा मॉडर्न टीयर वन सिटी को समझने में लगा दिया है कि अब क्या लैंग्वेज बोलनी है, क्या लोगों से बात करनी है। एंड अभी क्या, तो आई आस्क्ड हिम, अच्छा ओपन योर बैग एंड टेल मी व्हाट ऑल स्टफ डू यू कैरी अराउंड विद, मतलब मेट्रो में।
हम्म,
So he had picked up Economist magazine, and because he just was so, it was so naive and innocent of him to, okay, I've come to Delhi, I'm preparing for UPSC. If I get to be an IAS officer, I need to learn, and be a part of almost any surrounding that I'm thrown into. And I said ki theek hai, I can imagine, and I couldn't counter him because this is how early we are. So just want to take on that note, when you had come to Mumbai for your MBBS, what were some of the things which were a shocker to you, and some of the things which you then were able to park it out? Okay, because aisa kuch nahi hai कि tier 1 cities have everything figured out. In fact, if there's more chaos here, then
हम्म,
it's back there. So if you
हम्म।
remember, what was the chaos that you was thrown into, and how did you make sense of it?
मैं पहली चीज तो बोलूंगी द लाइफ इज क्वाइट फास्टर व्हेन एंड आई मीन इवन व्हेन आई स्टिल गो बैक टू जलगांव आई हैव दिस परसेप्शन कि वहां मेरा ज्यादा प्रोडक्टिवली काम हो जाएगा क्योंकि यहाँ कहाँ टाइम निकल गया आई डोंट नो सो आई
हाँ,
हैव प्रोबेबली द एंटायर डे इज गॉन एंड आई डोंट नो हाउ प्रोडक्टिव आई हैव बीन सो दैट वाज अ वेरी बिग शॉकर बिकॉज योर डे गोज बाय एंड यू आर नॉट यूज्ड टू दैट काइंड ऑफ पेस ऑफ लाइफ secondly as well how people think I think that matters. I have come from a tier two city, तो वहाँ लोगों की thinking processes या how they want a certain person to behave या उनकी कुछ आपसे expectation है. तो यहाँ के लोगों की अलग expectation है. They are a little. I think in any metro city, there's not a lot of connect with even with your neighbors now when you're staying. It's not like now अगर आप कहीं इंडिया में ऐसे टीयर टू टीयर थ्री रह रहे हो तो पूरी गली को कुछ हो जाए तो पता होता है but in a metro city like Mumbai or somewhere, you are not that connected. So you have to have very little people that you can trust with. अब I have come from a background wherein घर पे हमारे यहाँ कुछ हो जाता था तो everyone used to be around and everything. Here the thing was that people are not you cannot really go up to anyone and ask for help or something like that. That kind of connection is built only with a few certain amount of people and it takes a while for that. So these are a few things, but I think I pretty much got adjusted when I found the right set of people in my second year. So then, I started enjoying the kind of things leaving behind everything. Yeah.
okay, right. I think the word is transactional. That these things which are very transactional in tier
Very,
one,
very, very.
and they're much deeply felt. And I will tell you, I was raised in Delhi. So have you been to Delhi for extended period of time, by the way?
I was in Delhi for my mains preparation 2.5 months. Bas utna.
Delhi also
But
would have been a shocker. I mean, different from Bombay.
very
Right?
actually, to be very honest, I would go back and not me. I mean, I wanted to give offline tests, इसीलिए मैं आई थी because I think that could be a game changer in mains.
Mhm.
But because Delhi का भी मतलब Delhi culture is very different from Mumbai culture. That was another shocker. And मुझे उसमें भी काफी challenges आए. तो मेरा
ढाई
the
महीने में भी।
हाँ 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 2.5 महीने में मतलब I was frustrated by August and I told my land because the problem was that the place that I was staying in had construction going on and I genuinely did not know this when I shifted. So my story is that my father is somebody who says कि you don't take too much time for a decision, you take a decision and then you make it right. So 12th को result आ गया था and by 15th I decided I'm going to Delhi कि join classes and everything. So I did not waste time, कि बाद में जाना है. So गई got a flat and everything कि broker के through everything was done. But there was a construction going on just above my room. So वो चलता था दोपहर मतलब सुबह के 11 से आप पकड़ लीजिए 4 बजे तक. तो अब है ये कि that got to me, the migraines and everything, and I'm calling up the
Really?
landlord and I'm like, yeah. And I'm calling up the landlord like anything. I said, sir, my mains is not gonna come again. I genuinely cannot shift out of this flat. I would have, but neither
हाँ,
did I have the time. मुझे वहां से शिफ्ट करने में मुझे पता था कम से कम 10 दिन लग जाएंगे या इतना फ्रेंजी है. आई सेड आई कुड नॉट अफोर्ड अनदर डे ऑल्सो. सो आप प्लीज कुछ कीजिए इसका या तो टाइम रिड्यूस कीजिए या समथिंग. सो ही यूज्ड टू कट मी ऑफ कि नहीं मैम हो जाएगा 4 दिन एंड दैट हैपेंड फॉर ऑलमोस्ट एटलीस्ट अ मंथ अराउंड. ठीक है. तो आई वॉज वेरी फ्रस्ट्रेटेड. सो माई चैलेंज वॉज कि रात मैं लेजिट रात को पढ़ती थी बिकॉज आई कुडंट study during the daytime because I used to get migraines. I used to sleep. So I used to
You
sleep.
were able
मुझे
to sleep in that construction work noise.
I was barely so I used to sleep like आप पकड़ लीजिए कि if I'm awake till 7 o'clock in the morning, so I used to probably eat something, then sleep till 7 to 12 something. I used to sleep, get up थोड़ा बहुत videos वगैरह वाली चीजें हैं. If I'm not able to concentrate, I'll just put up some earphones, watch whatever videos या कुछ मुझे देखना होगा तो वो टाइम पीरियड में. तो वो एक टाइम पीरियड था कि मुझे उसकी वजह से अपना टाइम टेबल चेंज करना पड़ा. So I think these challenges come with every city, and you have to manage people that way. And I got through. It's a very good thing, but yeah, very difficult times those were. Yeah.
Wait, so you witnessed the hospitality of the old Rajendra Nagar firsthand, and
Yeah,
the
yeah, very, very, very much firsthand actually. Yeah.
okay, awesome, and it changed your circadian rhythm, so as to say, for
Yeah, yeah, it did.
you were
But I think it's also a lot about adaptability, because I think कि at that point in time मेरे दिमाग में बस वही था कि यार I cannot waste my time, because this is such a I had this one poster जो मैंने बनाया था कि uh, I have to give my best, because I knew the prelims was hard. It was damn out of an outlier, and I had gotten through. So I knew that I was one of the fortunate ones. So मुझे ये था कि यार, if I don't give my best, I would regret this. I would regret not giving my best in these 3 months. So I barely, took days off. I have probably taken 2, 3 as a proper days off कि यार where I've not studied. Other days I have put in at least 8 to 10 hours of consistently doing reading or whatever that is for me. So I think that has to be there, that kind of consistency in me.
correct. Okay,
Yeah.
थोड़ा academic पे आते हैं, थोड़ा सा, ठीक है, not much, but with a twist. So tell me, what were some of the things that you discovered you're naturally very good at in the UPSC syllabus? Like naturally comes like this to you. And I'll give you
Okay.
a I'll give you a perspective. So I was speaking with Benjo, who's again your batch IAS, and he said that his ROI for GS papers was topping the roof. Matlab, he barely spent like 1.5 months or 2 months in his whole entire preparation for GS, and his whole focus was in the. I think he also took anthro, तो उसका सारा focus anthro पे ही था. ऐसे कौन से subjects से which came like this to you and you were damn good at, and
I
why?
think I would. I think essay and ethics were something that I was really, मतलब वही चीज है जो मैं बोलती हूँ कि intangible है, मैं explain नहीं कर सकती कि वो मैंने सीखी कैसे, but आती है. It's something that has come very naturally to me. So when I started writing essay and ethics answers, and peer reviewed, I did not write much of essays, tests or anything. So mostly these were peer reviewed and everything. So I got to know that I'm good at it. Even my first essay was something that a lot of people admired. You have given a lot of diversity. So these two, I think I was fairly good at. So I had to put in less amount of efforts in these two for these two. Anthro, I would say I've put in a
Ethics
lot of
also.
efforts. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ethics, ethics. Like, were you naturally good at it in terms of writing? Yeah, theory was coming naturally to you. Matlab, you could understand the demand of the paper, UPSC.
So I think writing takes practice because case studies are very lengthy. That took me a while. So that I had to do a lot of mehnat. I used to, practice PYQs every day, at least one case study, so that you have that habit of writing everything in those 15 minutes. So that is one thing. But I think fairly enough, I had read ethics. I had never done ethics before. So that was a 3 month period wherein I had read ethics. So I felt that it came quite naturally that way. Ki once I had read one of the PDFs of whatever I had chosen, कि ये मैंने पढ़ लिया, and probably just definitions का भी PDF आ जाता है and everything. So I was quite natural at understanding the demand of the question कि चलो ठीक है, what is the demand, and I could address that very well. So I did very well in that month.
And how much did you get in ethics and essay?
So I scored decent enough. I think essay I have 114, because I think I did a little bit of gadbad in my second part of the essay, and in ethics I have gotten 118.
How much? 118.
18. 118. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
again, I'm assuming no micro notes for ethics, no notes for ethics paper as
So
such.
ethics का ऐसा था कि there were some codes and some things that I don't know. I have this one thing कि there was a question, I think probably some कि why is forgiveness the attribute of the strong? So how I some of the notes that I've made were कि मैं brainstorm करती थी कि why is forgiveness attribute of the strong. These were my points. So I would write 4 points ki this is. So there were very few topics that I had made notes for, nothing like ऐसे comprehensively नहीं बनाए थे. जो जो चीजें मुझे लगती थी कि ये मैं एग्जाम के पहले पढ़ूंगी, examples and everything I had written down because I wanted a good compilation of examples which enriches your answer that way. So that I had done. Definitions, mostly the PDFs that come on to, already compiled for everything. I had referred to that one.
Okay, then which subject, I mean, troubled you the most?
I think GS3 is always one of them. Kyunki it is such a, I don't think I'm very fairly good at economics. मतलब मुझे pre में फिर भी I would say I did understand a lot of concepts, but when it comes to answer writing of economics and environmental answers, these are very dynamic in nature. So I don't think कि GS3 I was very confident and I struggled कि how do I actually go about this, because even the pattern of UPSC when you see GS3 is very questions are not that predictable. So that was one thing I struggled with. Baki, I think GS1 also, I think because it is a little bit of in the static nature, it is still something that I could go with. But GS3 I struggled, I think, that way. Yeah.
Okay. We usually ask this question from the rankers. What is some of two questions? So what are some of the most underrated things which you should do as a part of your UPSC journey, which most Janta doesn't know of, or even if they do know of, they end up trivializing them? And second, what are some of the worst advices that you got for your UPSC prep?
Two things that are quite underrated. I think I'm not sure how many people write PYQs on a very everyday basis. Maybe people do, but I
Everyday
think
basis, मतलब कि just when you start preparation, उसके बाद से ही, when you
नहीं
haven't.
नहीं नहीं when you've at least had a certain amount of आपका एक segment of or should I say एक reading, a basic reading understanding हो गया है उसके बाद से I regretted that I did not have the time to do answer writing before my pre. मतलब मैंने बहुत few times ऐसे हुआ था कि I used to write answers and I had seen PYQs, definitely I had seen PYQs because I knew that I had to, but I could not do that before my pre because I had to finish my optional as well. So I prioritized finishing my optional over writing PYQs. But हमें लगता है tests जो हैं, there are a lot of tests in the market and coaching. But I would say write 7 to 8 PYQs when at least in my mains I used to write that every day. So I think that is one thing which has worked very well for me. And another, I don't know, I think underrated.
एक भी काफी
What
है.
that is?
मैं
I,
fact check.
I, I, yeah, I'm not remembering. I think
Tell me some
ये
of the
चीजें सब
worst
लोग
advices
बोलते हैं.
you got. Okay, the worst advices you got.
Worst advices.
And
यही
as
है,
many as you can.
यही है. नोट्स बनाइए, नोट्स के बिना नहीं हो पाएगा, नोट्स के बिना नहीं हो
और
पाएगा.
डेली न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ने का?
ये मुझे लगता है that it is a good thing. I will not say note making because I think newspaper sets into perspective for what you are getting into. I mean it gives you a personality thing कि आप जो चीज बनने जा रहे हो एक generalized understanding of the world कि क्या चल रहा है. Even if you are not writing down all the facts from the newspaper, see a lot of toppers say that कि आप examples लिख लीजिए या something. I think that is there in the compilations. So I would read newspaper more for editorials, opinions कि यार how people think and what do people think about this particular topic. So I think reading newspaper every day, yes. Probably not note making. Only in my interview preparation because you have to talk a lot about what you think about a particular topic. I had made notes, but other than that, I think it's a very I will never suggest for you to go through newspapers and make notes. It's I think waste of time. You need examples. There are a lot of compilations you can just go through. Yeah.
Okay. One more thing. One of the rankers I was speaking to told me that in the interview, he was giving a very, I would say, a very quote unquote traditional coaching type of answer. And then the chairperson told him, ki, boss, do not talk like a Rajendra Nagar aspirant. Give me your honest answer. And he did well. I think he scored 195. What were some of the googlies thrown at you in your interview? Or was it a
मुझे तो
smooth sailing also?
No, it wasn't. I think my chairwoman मेरा first ball ही googly था. So she asked me if health is an industry, pharma is the big brother. So, can you just elaborate this for me? So I am personally not, मतलब I don't think मुझे बहुत बार I am tube light a lot of the times and it does not click me कि उनको क्या चाहिए. So she had actually added a sarcastic tone to it. So I actually went on into a big way कि how pharma is actually, helping the health industry. So she was like, अच्छा, can you see the sarcasm in this? So I very honestly and naively said, sorry, ma'am, I'm unable to, appreciate it. And she was very, she was very kind enough कि अच्छा this is मतलब मैं ये बात कर रही हूँ कि have you heard about the lobbying that the pharma industry does and everything? Then I said yes, ma'am, I'm aware of it, and then the conversation went on. So I think in my entire interview I just showed कि नहीं आता तो it's okay. I do not know. I did not appreciate the sarcasm, so I said sorry, ma'am, did not. Most of my interview was on medical, so I think the discussions were a lot more easier फॉर मी बिकॉज आई न्यू अ लॉट ऑफ द थिंग्स जैसे उन्होंने कोविड पे बात करी तो कोविड में मैंने काम करा था एंड आई हैड ऑब्वियसली बिफोर माई इंटरव्यू रेड अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स अबाउट कोविड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन what happened all over the world, how did India fare, how did Mumbai fare where I was working in. So a lot of the conversation around vaccines and everything, so that fared very well for me. A few factual questions here and there, but I think otherwise mostly medically based, and on international affairs बस थोड़ा इजराइल हमास का कुछ डिस्कशन हुआ था उतना. ये
So,
how do you see US?
so interview
Sorry?
सही किया था, that knew like
नहीं नहीं मैं I think I have realized this कि I genuinely do also underestimate. Yeah, I overthink a lot of the things. So when I was coming out of the interview, I was like, नहीं यार ये point तो बोला ही नहीं. So I was under the impression, यार these people are not going to give me good marks because I forgot one point. So I was a little disappointed कि यार shit, I did not know this. Yeah, I couldn't think in that moment. But I think, yeah, I think that fared pretty well for me. So that way.
Nice. I just try to think, what's the best, if not the best advice, or what's the optimal advice that you would give or one would give to the people who are starting their preparation now in 2024, where there is no dearth of content. The good content will inevitably make way to you. There probably be good dearth of the right guidance to begin with. But वो भी आप थोड़ा बहुत ठोकर खा के समझते हो, or depending upon what headway you coming with. What are some of the things which you think make or break your attempt? And could be like some of the most simple thing, but they compound if they're unchecked. Uh, in the UPSC space.
I think one to you mentioned. I think right guidance is such a that is underrated. I think that
Underrated.
is underrated because इतना ज्यादा गाइडेंस है अब कि आप खुद कंफ्यूज हो जाओगे कि क्या सही है क्या गलत है. सो दैट इज वेरी एसेंशियल फॉर अ पर्सन टू नो कि आप राइट डायरेक्शन में जा रहे हो या नहीं. अब अगेन when we talk about right guidance, I also took my logical thinking कि अच्छा ये करेक्ट लग रहा है ये मुझे नहीं लग रहा है. सो आई थिंक एवरी एस्पिरेंट हैव टू फिगर दैट आउट फॉर देमसेल्व्स. Another thing I think that makes or breaks your attempt, ए कंसिस्टेंसी. मुझे लगता है कि इट इज अ फैक्ट दैट आई स्पोक विथ वन ऑफ माय फ्रेंड्स का फ्रेंड who had given names with me but she couldn't clear. सो वही था कि उन 3 महीनों में भी ऐसा है कि आप बहुत दिनों तक 3-4 दिन ऐसे ही चले गए, कुछ पढ़ा नहीं है, कुछ नहीं करा है. तो मुझे लगता है कि इट कुड हैव ब्रोकन माय अटेम्प्ट इफ आई वाज नॉट कंसिस्टेंट इनफ. ये 2 साल I have made a lot of compromises. I never compromised during my college life because तभी मैंने start भी नहीं करा था, and I would not recommend that. But when you are in the process, do make compromises. Uh,
Hmm.
at the moment, it might seem like to you कि यार missing out on a lot, but you also understand that missing out on right now will give you a better return on investment as fared आगे करके. तो ये मुझे लगता है can make or break. And a very very important mindset.
Hmm.
माइंडसेट होना चाहिए. माइंडसेट आप क्यों करना चाहते हो यूपीएससी? इफ इट्स सोसाइटल प्रेशर, इफ इट्स योर पेरेंट्स, इफ इट्स समथिंग वेरी सुपरफिशियल, इट कैन मेक और ब्रेक यू. क्योंकि आपका माइंडसेट अगर है कि ये क्यों करना है, इफ यू आर वेरी देयर, nobody can actually influence you in the wrong direction, I feel. So I think these are very essential things to make or break your attempt.
Fair enough. What are some books you read outside UPSC during this time of?
So the funniest part is that when I started my preparation, मैंने सोचा था बहुत पढ़ने मिलेगा, and I was genuinely interested कि यार ये भी पढ़ेंगे. I have a list of books, but the only book I actually managed to read was India Since Independence, क्योंकि that was during my internship. I wanted to get an idea about history. कि how have we done and what is the history of India after independence, and I think it is a wonderful book. But other than that, I haven't been able to read any non-academic books
से
क्योंकि
पहले
मेरा
तुमने
journey was नहीं
MBBS?
यार नहीं नहीं. I never. I think I was very much focused in MBBS in my career that way. But I have read a lot of self-help books which helped me grow that way. Ki the power of habit, the power of subconscious mind. These I have, but nothing specific to UPSC as such. Thinking fast and slow. A lot of the books, that were famous back then and, were recommended by a lot of people. The monk who sold his Ferrari and etc. So I've read these books, but not very UPSC specific, just,
Oh,
out
yeah,
of
yeah,
personal
UP
interest.
specific, outside UPSC, nothing to do with. So I'm
Yeah,
assuming,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
you said,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
This exam gives you an opportunity to get to know about your country, have some vision for it, feel
True,
it, and
true, true. True,
feeling to
true,
be
true.
a doctor. And so there are
Hmm.
books written by civil servants as well as academicians and other historians and whatnot.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
give
yeah.
you a different perspective to look at the same scenery.
True,
Uh,
true, true.
and that's a very nice personal journey when while you're leafing through the pages of the book. Uh, that's
Yeah,
the question was there, but I get it. Okay, so
yeah, yeah.
here's the thing, right? I mean, I know that you got books at the office. I also end up
Yes.
recommending and I gift books to people, to the rankers I speak with. So
Oh, I love it. Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
drop in your address.
I have told, in Civilsdaily when Saket sir and Shikhar sir were there, I said, I would accept any kind of book right now. And I think I'm desperate because now I have a bit of time on my hand. And अभी कोई rush नहीं है कि कुछ और देना है. तो, there is nothing as priority. So I'm prioritizing reading books now,
Perfect.
probably getting into a lot of genres that I've not gotten into yet.
Perfect. Perfect. So I
Yeah,
select a few and I'll send it to your home. We'll courier.
sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, sure. Thank you
Since
so
you
much.
have time now, I would want
Hmm.
to know, is there something academically that you figured out in the UPSC prep that you can take up a webinar with our internal students? Uh, Something which you cracked through कि यार, I think you mentioned, right, कि मुझको बहुत कुछ जानने का शौक था, मुझे हिस्ट्री भी अच्छी लगती थी, ये भी अच्छी लगती थी. तो either you have an interesting way to get through the syllabus or to whatever that is. Yeah,
I
you
think
figured out some hacks and tricks of the game कि यार this way you can get through the exam easily.
मुझे लगता है कि means I think I can something talk about because I think it's very unbelievable even for me at times कि those 3 months were sufficient enough for me to prepare and get a very good marks in that time period. तो मुझे लगता है वो चीजें हैं कि हम note making कैसे कर सकते हैं in a very crisp manner so that that bulk comes down. There are a lot of notes that people don't read. You've made notes but you don't read it. So making notes that are actually efficient and that can help you to read, revise, and the point is in those 7 minutes reproducing is a task because
Hmm.
your mind will only remember that is very deeply either etched or something that you have read very recently. So
Hmm.
आप बहुत सारी चीजें recently तो नहीं पढ़ सकते. There are very few things that you will be able to revise just before your exam, and then there are certain things that have to be there at the back of the mind without even reading them. So I think that thing I could speak a bit more. I don't think otherwise I have much of experience. I think there are many people in the journey. There was Ritika Verma, who is AIR 25 this year. So she's given 4 prelims and 4 mains. So I said, dude, I am not going to talk about pre much because I think pre is something you've cracked the code for. And, you've given 4. So you have experience of 4 times that you have gotten through. So I think there are more people to talk about it. But I think means this is the only thing that I feel was great in my journey that I could, give a few insights on if it's at all helpful for anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So let's do this. We'll ask you to talk about mains and keep PYQ as anchors. Okay.
Sure.
So we called in Benjo to the office. He was visiting Delhi. So he had also spoken about something, brainstorming and answer writing, like
Mm.
even before he committed to the paper, his answer, he used to think in multiple dimensions. And he said it's
Mhm.
something he developed for himself over
True,
time. It
true,
took
true.
him a while,
Yeah.
but he developed it for himself. Now, with you in a webinar, if we can just go through the PYQs, even the 2023 paper, and then how did you figure out? Because that is important. कि 7 minutes में वो reproduce करना either has to be your muscle memory or has to be your recent working memory, right? So and since those are that's the only segment for which you even made micro notes,
Mhm.
and so that must have been something which was very efficient. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made notes for
Yeah, 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 yeah,
podcast
yeah,
like that.
definitely, definitely.
So
Yeah.
let's do this. Let's find time.
Sure, sure, sure.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'll let you know whenever a comfortable time comes up with this. तो मुझे भी थोड़ा I'll prepare कि what all points I don't want to I hate taking times of aspirants because I think they already have a lot to
That's
do.
why
So
we'll do a
yeah, yeah,
very practical 45 minutes, not long.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
Saket
yeah, sure,
can help,
sure,
my team can help in, curating those set of notes and having some semblance of a deck for you and on a Zoom chat, because I think you're
sure,
in
sure.
Thane right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm in Thane.
You
Yeah,
can just take that.
sure, sure, sure. No problem.
And that would be great. That's all, Neha. I mean, I had a lovely
Yeah,
time chatting with you,
me
even though
too, me
to
too.
begin with, it's a very first world
It
dream run.
is,
So
it
do go
is,
ahead.
it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I do think that a lot of the times it's even unbelievable for me because this is something मतलब मेरे दिमाग में था कि my first attempt is my trial attempt and my second attempt will be the fruitful one wherein I get a very good rank. But I think life always has different plans and life has a different story than what you are trying to write. So yeah, I'd go with that whatever is happening is happening for a reason.
Now
So
you're a
yeah,
philosopher
grateful
too.
enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think everyone becomes a philosopher after a point in
Yes, the
time
UPSC
in
journey
life.
specifically.
Yeah, UPSC teaches you a lot of things, not only philosophy, I think. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, as we end the raw and real, tell me some of the interesting and quirky or some of the things that you didn't expect कि rank के बाद ये होगा और वो हुआ. I'll tell you one. Animesh went back to Odisha and उसको propose किया कि boss, let's make a movie in your life on your life. So he got a movie offer. And he
Wow, that is an interesting
लोगों
proposition.
ने बोला कि 12वीं फेल का क्या करोगे बॉस, लेट्स मेक अ मूवी ऑन योर लाइफ. एंड बिकॉज उड़ीसा में कभी रैंकर काफी टाइम बाद आया ना एंड सिंगल डिजिट रैंक.
अच्छा.
So tell me, what were the things you were introduced to after you got the rank?
Actually, to be very honest, the very common thing which I think happens with all that people who have not spoken, or probably not been in touch with you, suddenly, they start contacting you. And I think that happens with everyone. The funniest part was none of my relatives actually ever knew that I was preparing for UPSC. So I had told my parents ki I would like it to be not something very outspoken unless मतलब मेरा ये था first attempt के बाद if I am going to give another I'd probably tell them कि now I am preparing. मुझे फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट के टाइम कोई डिस्ट्रैक्शन, कोई क्वेश्चन मार्क, कोई डाउट्स, कोई कुछ बोल दे, मुझे वो अफेक्शन चाहिए ही नहीं था. सो आई सेड कि आई कीप इट अ वे कि आई ऑलवेज यूज्ड टू टेल पीपल व्हाट आर यू डूइंग. आई यूज्ड टू से आई एम प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर व्हाट. I never lied about it, but I just say I'm preparing. Now you didn't ask me about what, so that's a completely different story. So I think after that the reactions
This
are
is like
like
that
that.
Ashwatthama thing, right? That in
Yeah,
Mahabharata.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I learned from that. I think Lord Krishna was he's taught me these kind of things कि unless and until ऐसा कोई चीज नहीं है कि you have to completely be a naive person or in
You
the
don't
world
have
to
to
survive.
lie, but you don't have to
But
be exact.
yeah, yeah. So I just said, I'm preparing. Only a few people, very close to me, my friends and everybody knew. And my batchmates knew because, of course, during my internship, I was preparing, तो वो पता चल जाता है. So that was the funniest part कि people were like अरे how कैसे कब हुआ तुमने तो बताया भी नहीं. So I think that was the only very very thing that they were baffled about. But I don't think anything as big as being offered a movie has happened.
अरे
I'd
तो क्या
probably talk to.
होम टाउन
Yeah,
में
yeah.
पोस्टर वोस्टर नहीं लगे ऐसे, वो जो बड़े बड़े नेताओं नेताओं के लगते हैं ऐसे नहीं लगे तुम्हारे फोटो डाल के एकदम
यार नहीं मैंने
स्टैंड
एक्चुअली
वगैरह पे?
नहीं एक्चुअली हुआ ये कि आई wasn't in my hometown. I think probably would have happened because my papa got sick for a while, so we stayed back in actually I was planning to go to Jalgaon for मतलब after this, but वो हो ही नहीं पाया. So for the past 1 month I have not visited my hometown. A lot of people have been calling me कि आप कब आ रहे हैं बताइए, but haven't been able to reach out yet. So probably would have happened if I would have gone in that way. Yeah. But I think I would not. See, it'll probably sound ungrateful for me, but I think I am. This is just beginning of something. This is a place where I'm entering into a field to do things that I'm wanting to do. This is the starting point. This is an achievement for sure. Something I should celebrate. But I think I would be much more happier when people celebrate the things that I've done. To improve something. Of course, this is my achievement. But मुझे लगता है कि जब मैं कुछ कर लूंगी तो मुझे थोड़ा ज्यादा अच्छा लगेगा कि तब मेरे बारे में कुछ बात हो कि यार इन्होंने ये कर दिया करके. तो I think that will be my happy moment more than these. Yeah.
That's nice to say. I think we
Yeah.
should, in time, we'll have raw and real sessions with bureaucrats in service where we talk about, okay,
True. True.
exactly क्या मचाया है, क्या फोड़ा है district में अभी, and just tell
True.
the
True.
number
True.
कर सकते हो, है ना?
But I'm actually quite excited because there is a lot of learning to do. Now this is like your first step. Now you're gonna meet up people from a lot of other backgrounds and a lot of other learnings, and their journeys are going to be different. Wherein I'm FC में मिलूंगी मैं, तो मुझे लगता है उनसे सीखना, उनके experiences से सीखना, probably wherein I get posted वहां पर कुछ करना, some innovation, some technology, probably collaborate with somebody else. I think these are the things I'm looking forward to now.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
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 I think this is more or less the end of Raw and Real, and this has been a
thank you.
thoroughly engaging one for me. I
Yeah,
had more
me
to
too.
know from you than ask questions. I think you took good amount of airtime and for all the right reasons. So thanks for coming here. Thanks for being a
Yeah,
part.
I'm appreciative of civils because मतलब मुझे तो सबसे पहले खुशी यही होती है कि यार मुझे books मिल गए. So I was very happy when I visited the office, and I told Saket we will definitely do a raw and real with sir. Thank you
Awesome.
so much for thank you so much for the session, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure is all
Yeah,
mine. And I'll hope to
yeah,
see you again now this time for a very academic and very practical webinar. So, we'll schedule a date which makes
sure,
sense. And
sure. Definitely, I'll let you know about it, sir.
yeah, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Take you too, sir. You too.